Hey y'all, it's your girl Ariza, a licensed clinical social worker with over a decade of experience helping people just like you pass the LMSW and LCSW exam. So whether you're a first timer or repeat test taker, this is the place to get the tools, strategy, and mindset you need to level up and pass that exam. So let's jump into it. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety disorders. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about anxiety disorders. So before I jump in, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like your brain was stuck in overdrive, like your heart's racing, your palms sweating, and there's no real danger in sight? That's not just stress. That might be an anxiety disorder. So let's break this down so you can understand what's really happening and the different types of anxiety and how we can better manage it. First, what is anxiety? Anxiety is our body's alarm system, which is great when there's actual danger. But the problem comes in when there's no danger and we're alarmed for no reason. So let's talk about the difference between stress and anxiety. Stress is the response to an actual trigger, like you have a deadline for your course or your class or your work, or you're trying to complete something for work. Maybe it's an appointment coming up. Maybe you just had an argument, a doctor's appointment, something along those lines, an actual trigger that's causing you to feel a certain way. So that is the stress. Now, anxiety, on the other hand, is worry or fear that just persists even when there's no real danger, or should I say no real threat. Nothing's happening, but that worry and that fear is just pretty persistent. So if you think about your brain like a security system, a good one alerts you when there's an alarm or when there's some type of danger. Anxiety, that system's broke. It just keeps going on and over. The sounds, alarm sounds are just blaring and you're just not sure why and what's going on. And that is the difference between stress and anxiety. So let's jump into the types of anxiety. Yes, stick with me for a little bit. This video is going to be a little bit longer than most. And if you can't sit through a 10-15 minute video, I don't know what to tell you because the test is 4 hours. All right, remember that. So let's talk about the types of anxiety. First, you have the generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. This is the chronic worry about everyday things like your finances, your health, your relationships. And it's hard to control, and it happens pretty much mostly every day. And it happens for at least 6 months. So remember that, almost every day for at least 6 months. And the symptoms here is that you have the restlessness, you have the muscle tension, problem sleeping, and most importantly, difficulty concentrating. Let's move on to the second one. We have that panic disorder. Yes, this is that sudden, intense panic attacks. It can feel like you're having a heart attack. You have that rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, dizziness, fear of losing control. Those are the symptoms of someone with a panic attack or panic disorder. Imagine feeling like you're dying for no reason. Yeah, I know that's bad, but that's pretty much what it feels like. And then we have the third one, social anxiety disorder, or should I say social phobia. That is where you have intense fear of being judged or embarrassed in social situations. Some examples would be like public speaking, meeting new people, eating in public. These are the things that get the person a little uncomfortable and they feel embarrassed. This normally leads to avoidance of behaviors. So like you skip events, you stay silent when you're in group settings. That's not healthy or helpful, but that's pretty much what happens when someone's dealing with that. And then the fourth one, specific phobias. These are the irrational fears of specific objects or situations. So we might have a fear of heights, a fear of spiders, a fear of flying. Mine is a fear of mice. It is what it is. Judge me if you won't, but I have a fear of the little mice. So the symptoms you have when you have these fears, extreme anxiety, just thinking about the fear. You're avoiding those situations when you're around it. Say if you're talking about spiders, your brain treats a spider like it's a serial killer. You overreact a whole lot because you're worried to death that this spider is going to like take over your life. So these are examples of specific phobias. Let's give an example of agoraphobia. I'm sure you guys have heard this one. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in places where escaping feels impossible. So a lot of times individuals with agoraphobia, they prevent themselves or try to do things so they don't have to go out in crowds or public transportation or things of that nature. I don't know if you guys have seen the TV show called Found, really good TV series, but one of the individuals on the series suffers from agoraphobia where he never leaves his home. He works and does everything remotely, and he's part of this amazing team where they find people, and I'm not gonna get into that, but just keep that in mind. All right, let's move into number 6, separation anxiety disorder. This is more common in kids, but adults do have it as well. It's the fear of being separated from your loved ones. It's often due to some past trauma. So keep that in mind. This is pretty much trauma related. Not always, but most of the time it is trauma related. And then number 7, that's selective mutism. This usually starts in childhood. So a kid can normally speak, but they only do so in certain situations. So in school, they might not say anything, or when they're in church, they might not say anything. Just certain situations, they don't speak at all. That is selective mutism. It's often tied to some type of social anxiety. All right, so those are some of the disorders. Now let's jump into the causes and the risk factors. Anxiety disorders are not just in your head. They come from a mix of factors. Let's start with the first one. It could be biological, genetics, brain chemistry, that imbalance in the serotonin and the dopamine, those type of things. You could also have some psychological situations, as we discussed before, past trauma. You also can have a personality type where you want to be a perfectionist and you want everything to just be perfect, and that can create some anxiety. And then you have the environmental pieces. That is the stressful life events, upbringing, social influences, all those types of things can bring on anxiety. So now you ask, how does anxiety affect the body and mind? Were you asking me that? Oh, I thought you were. I'm going to answer it anyway. When you're anxious, you have that fight or flight system. It just goes off, even when there's no real danger. So some physical symptoms might be that rapid heartbeat, the sweating, the dizziness, the stomach issues, the muscle tension. These are some things when people are suffering and dealing with anxiety that they physically feel. And then there's the mental systems, mental symptoms, or systems? No, it's mental systems. No, it's mental symptoms. I know you guys are following me. Anyways, the symptoms here that would happen mentally are like the racing thoughts, the catastrophizing, which is more like thinking the worst of everything. Like one thing happens and you're going to the worst thing that can happen. And then also feeling detached from reality. These are some of those symptoms that you might deal with. And then you have behavioral. That is avoiding, like staying at home, avoiding social situations, seeking reassurance constantly, and over preparing for situations. You're just doing the most. That is some of the behavioral signs and symptoms that you'll see with someone with anxiety disorders. Let's talk about them treatment options. There's no one size fit all, but there are some things that really work. Number 1, therapy. That is your first line of treatment. Therapy. Yes, guys, come and see me. That is the cognitive behavioral therapy. That is the gold standard for anxiety. It helps reframe negative thoughts. It helps reduce avoidance. And some examples here would be like gradual exposure to feared situations. I know you guys have heard of exposure therapy, and that is pretty much something that you would utilize under the CBT module. And then you also have that mindfulness-based therapy that teaches you to stay present instead of future tripping. Yes, tripping. All worried about the future. It ain't even get here yet, and we worried about it. So that's why you want to use some mindfulness-based therapy to help keep you in the future. In the present. And then you have ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. That helps you accept your anxious thoughts. Instead of fighting them and running from them, you accept them and you deal with them head on. And then, of course, you have medication. In severe cases, people do take medication for anxiety. Those are the SSRIs. I did a little video on medication. So, you want to refer back to that video, be my guest. And some SSRIs are Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, so forth. And then you have the SNRIs. And some here would be the Effixor and Cymbalta. And then you have the benzos. And that is pretty much only used in a short-term basis, and you only want to use it if the person has an addictive risk, and that is Xanax and Ativan. All right, now, even though I'm giving you some medication, there are some holistic and some lifestyle approaches that you can take when dealing with anxiety. First and foremost, regular movement. When you sit still, that increases the anxiety. So regular movement reduces anxiety. Also with your diet, you want to cut back on that caffeine, cut back on that sugar, cut back on that processed food, cut back on, yes, those are things that make your anxiety worse. And then sleep hygiene. Poor sleep worse anxiety. So set a bedtime routine and make sure you getting in the bed and you getting your rest. That's what you need to make sure you do. And then you can also do some breath work and some meditation, like the techniques of the 4-7-8. That is a breathing technique that is really, really helpful and helps clients get grounded. And then you also have some journaling where you can write down your anxious thoughts. It just kind of helps you from overthinking. So some quick coping strategies that you can use today if you're dealing with anxiety, or you have a client that's dealing with anxiety, or you're a supervisor trying to help your supervisees understand that the test is going to be passed by them and they don't have to have anxiety about it, so they can just join my program and my course so I can help them and make sure I ease that anxiety. You can do that as well. All right, so there's tons and tons of things. You can do the name 5 things you see, name 4 things you touch, name 3 things you hear, name 2 things you smell, name 1 thing you taste. That is a way that you utilize the 5 senses, and it helps an individual become more grounded and stay in the here and now. That is an excellent tool when dealing with anxiety. And then you also have that box breathing, like you inhale 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale 4 seconds, you just keep doing it and repeating it until the person's able to calm down and have some regulation in their breathing and also calming down their thoughts. That is what's most important. And then reframing. Instead of saying like, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes right? Like thinking opposite. I have a lot of people who do that, and I help them with reframing when it comes to the test. Like, what if I fail again? Or what if I don't pass? Like, what if you do pass? And what if you go in there and you knock the damn test out? It's just a way of reframing. It's all about how we think and how we see a thing. So keep this in mind, guys. I want you to realize that anxiety is real. There's a lot of techniques and things you can do to help yourself as well as your clients when you're dealing with anxiety. I hope this video was hella helpful. Make sure you're joining a community. I don't know if I told you or not, but I have an amazing community. It's community.coachingtheelite.com. That simple. Community.coachingtheelite.com. And it is a free community. It's a way for you to connect with me so we can talk, so we can build. We can talk about some techniques, some strategies. I throw in test questions, case scenarios, answering them. It's just a lot of engagement. It's a brand new group. It's on and popping, and I'm telling you, it's going to be the best group you've ever entered into. So make sure you join us. It is free, absolutely no cost. You join the group, you get all the test prep stuff. It's a continuum of what I go over on this YouTube channel. It just gives a little bit more personal approach, because I can't talk to you guys on YouTube. You can only watch the video and comment. So it just gives me an opportunity to connect and interact with you guys. I hope you find the community to be helpful. Those of you that are in my course, I know you're already in the community. And if you are, we have, of course, way more things that we do, such as, not way more things, we do a lot more things, such as like the coaching classes and more strategies and more tips. And we're really honing in for your investment to make sure you're getting your money's worth. I hope this was helpful. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend. And hope you understand what anxiety disorders are. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, just put in the comment section, anxiety, I got you. Until the next one, be blessed. Have an amazing day.